You're listening to the Global Travel Channel podcast show, a podcast that shares travel experiences from across the world. Your host for the show is Mark Philpott, ex-global corporate executive, philanthropist, publisher, filmmaker, sportsman, and serial traveler. Mark sits down with guests from across the world and talks about their up-close and personal travel experiences. And we get to understand how travel changes people's lives. Here's your host, Mark Philpott.
Super excited to be with you all again here on the Global Travel Channel. I'm your host, Mark Philpott, and welcome. It's a beautiful day where I am. I hope it is where you are as well. This is a show where I get to talk to amazing people across the entire planet about their travel experiences. We don't just talk about travel destinations here. No. We talk about deep and meaningful things that happen to people's lives when they travel. Many of them have changed their lives as a result of their travel experience, and some of them are still in that process. They also find out about the world out there, and it changes their perception. Yes, travel is such an amazing thing. So that's what we do on the show. If you want to find our previous episodes, all you have to do is go over to the website at globaltravelchannel.com. Over 150 episodes sitting there waiting for you to binge listen to. And if you prefer to download them, you can go to places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all those other places where you get your good podcast. And you can find all those links on our website. Okay, my guest today, well, he must be out of breath because in the last 30 months he's been to 119 countries around the world on 6 different continents, and he's been to all the 50 states in the United States of America. So let's go and catch up with him right now. So it's a very warm welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show today to Joshua. Joshua, how are you, mate?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Yeah, really well. And we were just chatting off air about your new fancy microphone. You want to tell everybody what sort of microphone you got?
You know, I went out after being on a few podcasts and hearing people complain. I decided to spend the money and go ahead and get the Blue Yeti. Spend a little money for it.
Well, listen, I want to thank you because as a podcaster, one of the most frustrating things is when you get a guest who hasn't got the right gear, and it does take away from the quality of the show. So I want to thank you for making that investment. And I'm sure every other podcaster whose show you appear on after this one will also be very appreciative of that. It's probably the best investment you've made.
I hope so.
Now, whereabouts in the world are you talking to me from today?
Right now I'm in Clearwater, Florida. Got stuck here.
Clearwater, Florida.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a nice part of the world.
It's not a bad place to be stuck during COVID-19. We could say that.
Is that where you were born?
No. I was born and raised over in Bermuda.
Oh, Bermuda. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're the first native Bermudan I've had on the show as well. So, and you were how old were you before you left Bermuda?
The first time I believe we left at 8.
Right.
And then you kind of went back a few times, but once my little brother was born in California, then then was kind of from there on out we were stateside.
Okay. Well, a lot of people would be jealous of the fact that you were born and raised a little bit in Bermuda. What was it like? Can you tell us what was it like growing up there as a young kid?
From what I remember, it was amazing. And, I've been back a few times, and Bermuda is just, it truly is as beautiful as everyone thinks it is. It's an island with pink sand and, nice people and money. It's a great place.
Do you think it's somewhere you might go back one day for a more permanent base?
If my podcast career continues to go in the right way and I become a millionaire, maybe. It's so expensive there to hostels aren't even allowed to be there. Like, they don't allow them. So, budget traveling to Bermuda doesn't exist.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to have hostels there?
Yeah, there's certain rules about it. Because I know Airbnb is there, but it's like a good example would be if you want to sleep on one of their beaches, like on the really nice beaches, it can cost you upwards of $100 a night. Like, it's no joke.
Wow. So it's the lifestyle of the rich and famous.
Absolutely.
Well, here's hoping your podcast career takes off. if our man Joe Rogan can make $100 million with Spotify off podcasts, there's hope for all of us.
Oh, I mean, absolutely, for sure.
So Clearwater, what's famous about Clearwater, and why should people listening to this podcast go to Clearwater one day?
Well, right now, I mean, I don't think anybody should be traveling to the U.S. at this current moment.
Yeah.
But in the future, I mean, Clearwater is, I believe it's ranked number 2, the second best beach in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It was number 1 for a while, but I believe it's number 2 now in 2020. But I mean, it's a beautiful little part of Florida. You know, it's St. Petersburg, Florida, Tampa, Florida, and Clearwater, Florida. They're all kind of a trifecta type thing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's really nice for sure.
It's a beautiful spot. I've got a lot of friends that do a lot of boating over there, you know, and it's a great place to have a boat, obviously, because there's a lot of, you know, protected waters as well, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Well, get to Clearwater, everyone, after the travel bans are lifted, of course, and don't forget to wear a mask. That'll be a wise decision as well. Now, Joshua, what I do on my show is I allow my guests to dedicate their show to someone special in their life. So who would you like to dedicate your show to today?
I'd probably go, right now I'd go with my father, actually. He's always been a huge fan of mine. And, you know, he kind of just pushes me, he helps me go forward all the time.
Fantastic. And what's your dad's name?
John.
John. Okay, well, here's a shout out to John. Let's hope you love listening to Joshua. I'm sure you will on his podcast show. And you might find out something about Joshua that you didn't know today, John. I'm going to put that little bit out there and see if that comes true. Now, Joshua, before we started today, I've done the introduction to the show, and I've told everybody that you've travelled to 119 countries across 6 continents, as well as all the 50 US states, and you've done that in 30 months. I was wondering whether or not you've stopped to have a breath yet.
Oh, man. So, you know, I can't. It's kind of hard to explain, too, because I mean, obviously, you know, you're a traveler as well. There's just, you know, there's 2 different types of travelers. There's truly 2 different types, you know, and I am one that I like to be on the move all the time, where some people like to relax.
Yeah. So is that part of your planning process as well? Like when you plan a trip, do you kind of go, right, let's see how many places I can get to in the time frame that I've got to do it? Is that the kind of motive?
Well, it actually all depends on my sponsors. It depends, you know, what sponsorships I'm picking up and where from. And, you know, and then it also depends on global conflict. I never thought that I'd say that on air. But, like, legitimately, over the last year and a half, it's been, you know, depending on what global conflict is going on, depends on where I can get sponsors to then travel.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to talk about that in some detail because you are a travel blogger, a travel author, a digital entrepreneur. You're an ex-military guy as well. So we have plenty to talk about with travel. Let's start off with the military because I've never had anybody on the show before that's been to war. And that's a very unique way to travel somewhere. Can you tell us a little bit about when that happened and what was behind it all and how did it pan out for you?
Yeah, you know, so, I mean, as a very young age, my father was also, he was in the Navy. So that's the reason I was born in Bermuda. He did a tour in Antarctica. And then after Antarctica back in the early 90s, you got to kind of choose your next, your next duty station. So he chose Bermuda. So I'm glad he chose Bermuda. I mean, it could have chose, you know, some other ones, but so I've always been, I feel like traveling's been in my blood from the very beginning. And then as I got done with high school, I was kind of confused like a lot of, you know, younger men are. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I decided to, you know, jump in the military and see where that would take me. And then eventually it took me to Afghanistan for the first time. And yeah, so yeah, that's how I guess that's where you could say my traveling career started, was Afghanistan.
Wow, that's amazing. Did getting into the military, was it something that you did with a couple of mates, or was there any peer pressure around that, or were you doing it by yourself?
So this is a funny one. Absolutely no pressure and no mates at all. It was I was walking down. I was in high school and I was walking down the hallway, and I guess I had this worrisome look on my face, and a military recruiter walked up and goes, "Hey, what's up, buddy? You look kind of like you're down." And I was like, "Well, you know, I have a math test coming up, an algebra test," and I was like, "I didn't really study, so I don't know how I'm gonna do." And he's like, "Well, what if I told you I could get you out of that, and I could get you some pizza? And I was like, that's awesome. Right. So then I went down and I took the ASVAB test, which is the entry level exam that everyone has to take before you join any of the United States military. Yeah. And I scored really well, and then it was kind of like, then once you so if you score certain levels, then they can offer you really, really large bonuses. And when you're a 17-year-old guy and someone offers you $25,000 to join the military, it's kind of like, I don't really know about college yet, so let's go ahead and try this.
Do you remember what kind of pizza it was?
It was definitely cheese pizza, because I found out that they're kind of cheap when it comes to the food part.
So the test you had to sit, how long was the test for? How long did that take?
I believe it's about 4 hours. So this was like, they got me in the morning. So it was really, really early in the morning when it started. And
there was no physical examination attached to that?
Oh, no. That you go through all of that once you've actually agreed to sign up. You don't. This was just what they do for high schoolers a lot of times to make sure that you. I don't want to say smart enough, because that's not the right word. It's more like these type of tests will tell you what your aptitude is in certain levels, whether it's mechanical, communication, geometry, like mathematics, all that stuff, and it kind of tells you what jobs you could have.
Okay, cool. So what did you actually go into the military as?
Went in through military intelligence, and let's see, it's kind of hard. So I started as a cavalry scout, and it's funny because it's like that's like what you see in like the movies. They're attached to the infantry, and it's like, I'm gonna be awesome, and I'm gonna change the world, and that was kind of my mindset, as a young kid. And then after about 4 years, I realized, this isn't gonna, because as you're getting older, and then you're in your low 20s, you start thinking like, what can I do after the military? And I started realizing that running around and being the first in, first out might not get me very far once I get out. So then I transferred over to the military intelligence community. Okay,
so where were you based at in the US?
First one was Fort Knox, which is
pretty famous place.
It is extremely famous, but it's also extremely horrible. Right. It's so hot and tiring, and it's kind of another famous thing about Fort Knox is that the county that surrounds Fort Knox is a dry county. Right. So they don't sell any alcohol around that. And when you have like a bunch of, young soldiers that are going through our first training was 18 weeks straight.
Yeah.
So as soon as we could get out, we went straight to Louisville, of course.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
You're trying to go party as soon as you can.
So tell me, I've just recently come across David Goggins, who I've become a good fan of, and do they show you his videos when you enlist into the army?
No, they don't, actually. It's funny you bring him up, because I didn't really know him very well until I started listening to Joe Rogan, of course, and then I kind of like learned some of his stuff through there. So, but it is kind of funny. They could pretty easily, and that would definitely get you inspired.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big Goggins fan now. In fact, there mustn't be a day go past when I don't watch a Goggins video, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so how old were you when you headed off to Afghanistan?
21.
Wow. How was the emotions that day you flew out? What were you thinking?
It's kind of hard to explain. It's like, so our first tour was kind of an interesting one because it was out of a movie basically, and I'm totally, this is all 100% true. We're sitting in the mess hall, and the first sergeant walks over, and the first sergeant goes, "Hey guys, so we're gonna be deploying, but we only need 28 volunteers to go." And there's about 70 of us sitting right here right now, and nobody is eager to raise their hand. And then I look over at one of my friends, a good close friend of mine, and he starts to raise his, and then I like rush to beat him for some reason, put my hand up, and then I realize, oh wow, we just volunteered to go to war. This is awesome. Sweet.
Oh, no.
So it was I don't take it back at all, and the experience was great in certain parts.
Yeah. So how long after that day where you raised your hand that you're actually on a flight heading to Afghanistan?
It's about a 3-month process. Like, you have to go out to like most units go out to Texas or Georgia, and you
Yeah.
do all your pre-training. So you go through 90 days of pre-training, getting you ready for the impact and everything. So before you get on that plane, you've had a lot of time to think about things. You've had a lot of time to talk to your family. They give you ample time in most deployments. Of course, there are some where people are just, depending on their job, thrown on an airplane and they got to get over there because they need them. But yeah, because my first one was in 2009 was
Right. Okay.
so it was kind of like it threw you for a little loop, but
Yeah.
like I said,
It's
it was interesting.
it's not like getting on a flight going to Bermuda and laying on the beach for a couple of weeks, right?
Not even close.
So I'm sure your dad was proud the day that you told him you were heading off to war in Afghanistan.
Yeah, absolutely. My dad's always been behind me, and when I told him the story about how and why I raised my hand, he just kind of chuckled and said, "That's what I figured."
Yeah,
So
right.
I mean, he kind of knew that, and I kind of always wanted, in a way, this might sound different to civilians, but it's kind of like when you're a soldier, it's kind of hard sometimes when you're in like a combat unit until you go to war. You don't really feel like a soldier.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I don't know. I don't know if people understand that, but I mean, I think you probably understand what I'm saying. It's like you're a soldier and you're doing stuff stateside, but until you go to war, when there's war being fought, obviously, I would prefer no wars ever. That would be a much better world to be in with no wars. But when there's a war going on and you have signed up for your country, then you're gonna go if you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you arrived in Afghanistan, you're actually, your feet hit the ground, so to speak. How was it then for you emotionally? Was it, did it all hit the reality, or was it a pretty good transition because you'd been trained and spent that time preparing?
Well, it's in all honesty, you can't say we can't like talk a lot about it, about the thing because a lot of it still is classified and stuff like that. But I can
Right.
say that it's no joke that the moment we got on our base in southern Afghanistan, it wasn't even more than an hour before we had mortar attacks on our base, and we were sitting in a bunker area around around sandbags and just hearing the mortars come in. So there was no time to adapt, to be completely honest. And I almost think it was kind of a better thing in a way because you didn't have any time to wonder, oh, I wonder what's gonna happen. As soon as we got on the base, within an hour and a half, the mortars were coming in, and we're like, oh, we're there. We're in Afghanistan.
No, I can understand that. I think it's better to be thrown in the deep end, literally, right, and have that going on. Yeah, exactly. Now, you said the first time. How many times have you been on tour of duty?
Well, one to Afghanistan, and then we had one in Kyrgyzstan, which is
Right.
a nearby area, and then we had one at the Pentagon. So those are my 3 tours, and they all offered their different things, but it's kind of funny because people might think that a tour to Afghanistan is harder than a tour at the Pentagon, or harder than a tour at Kyrgyzstan, but they all have their issues, and and we all go through Kuwait originally. So you go through Kuwait, and you have to kind of pass everything again before they even send you over to Afghanistan. So there's quite a process.
Yeah, I bet. Now, I always ask my guests on the show, and it's all relative, I guess, to what we're talking about, so take that into mind when I ask you this, but I ask my guests, how does that travel experience change you as a person? So how did that particular part of the traveling lifestyle that you enjoyed, how did that change you as a person?
Well, I mean, I'm an extremely observant person now. And I don't know if I was always an observant person or not, but since traveling, to Afghanistan and stuff like that, I became a very observant person, and I can catch myself doing it, when I'm traveling and, you're getting on a bus for the first time in a new country. You go straight to the back of the bus where you have a wall against your back.
Yeah, right.
If you're in the airport, I'm looking for an area where I could put my back against the wall so then I can have everything in front of me and kind of, scope out the situation. And I think it makes me a better traveler after starting in a more of a hostile travel environment.
Yeah, that's interesting. So mindfulness is a really big part of how you behave each day, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. That's really cool. Well, listen, thanks for sharing that part of your travel life with us, because as I say, it's been a unique thing on my show. I haven't had anybody talk about that, and I understand that you've got some, plenty of classified information. We can't talk about it, but it does give us an insight as to, the process you went through, and you obviously came out a great man. So thank you for sharing that part.
No problem.
Now, I want to talk about a one-way ticket you brought to Bangkok, because I imagine that was the start of another chapter of your life as well.
It was, and it was a different, after spending a decade in the armed forces, and being following orders nonstop, and doing what they say, and you having to go here, and not having much choice. It's kind of just, it was time for me to kind of make my own choices.
So why Bangkok? Why Thailand?
Even to this day, I actually have no idea. I can't even tell you what. I don't know if it was movies, if it was the original Hangover movie.
Yeah.
They go I don't know what the real reason was, but I think that I just was on Skyscanner, and I think I got a really good deal, and it was just a couple $100. It was like $200. And there was the difference was $200 for a one-way, or like $800 for a round trip. And I think I just, talked myself into being like, let's just do one way and see what happens.
Wow, that's cool. And what was the kind of vision before you left in terms of your travel adventures? Were you planning on just going for as long as whatever and see what happened, or what?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was kind of like, I was like, maybe I'll go out for 3 months. I had enough money saved up where I didn't have a lot, but I had enough that if I stayed at hostels, for $2 a night and $3 a night, I could get by on $200 or $300 in my pocket for a month or so. And then I was planning on working at a few hostels and stuff like that.
Yeah, cool. So what happened when you arrived in Bangkok? What was the game plan when you hit town?
Well, as soon as I I had already looked up a few hostels, so I kind of knew the hostel I was going to go stay at. And then once I got to the hostel, I started, a week went by really fast, and it was just kind of like, oh, this is really cool. I'm really enjoying this. And then I started meeting some other people that were talking about travel blogging and stuff like that. And more or less, I was like, I wonder if I could do that. Maybe I could do that. It's possible. And then before I knew it, about a month later, I had started my first website. It did not work, by the way. It crashed and burned big time the first couple. But, so after I started it, and then I started realizing if you start getting some followers and you start getting an audience, then I could talk to the hostel, the individual hostels, and then they would let me stay for free.
Yeah.
So before I knew it, I was able to stay for free, and then I could do a little work for food, and all I had to do was write some blogs, and I was able to continue traveling.
Fantastic. Now, a lot of people listen to my show who are interested in the whole travel blogging world, and a lot of people are listening, wanting to get started. Go back to when you talked about the first couple of times you blew up, and as far as the travel blogging goes, what lessons did you learn from that process?
Oh, so many. And I'm still, the funny thing is I'm still learning them every day. And that's for anybody listening. Just remember that you're not going to get it perfect the first month, the first 6 months, the first year. I've been doing this for over 3 years, and I'm still deleting things and relearning things every single day. And so when we first started, I was like, all right, all I need, because I had a Facebook and I had an Instagram, but I wasn't really utilizing those just yet. And I was like, all right, I need a website, and I need a really clever name, because a name is everything.
Yep.
So I'm like, all right, visit197.com. That's the best name in the world, I feel like. But what I didn't realize is that 90% of the people in the world don't know there's 197 countries. So they have no idea what I'm talking about. And every website you go to says that there's a different amount of countries. So the website made no sense to anybody. And after about 3 months, I was like, well, I got to change this name. And that was the first website that went to shame.
So the key here, key learning here is getting a URL that's really catchy, yeah?
Absolutely. And that's kind of the key. And I went through several. I mean, I had travelglobalnow.com that I thought was going to be the next big one. And then, I've had mine now for the last 8 months, and it's definitely the right one. Tiredofworking.com is mine now.
Yeah, fantastic. I loved it when I saw it, and I thought, yeah, he's nailed it with that one. Have you ever done, this is a side discussion now, have you ever done a valuation on your URL to see how much it's worth?
Yeah, a couple of times, but because it's so young, like the URL is only 6 months old.
Right, okay.
So, and the person that had it before me, so I kind of snuck it away from what the Bluehost people were telling me. Basically, somebody had bought Tired of Working for years before, but they weren't using it. They were just redirecting it.
Okay.
So, and then they forgot to pay, and it lapsed, and I snuck, and I on it. This goes right into the the age-old thing of being in the right place at the right time. I mean, that's all it was. Like, I go on, and the Bluehost guy said it literally came like 24 hours before. It had just hit the market, and I'm sitting there like, are you wow. I literally saw like this pot of gold and just like this rainbow, and I'm just like, sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time, and yeah.
It was worth waiting for, huh?
It was, and that's something that I think all travel bloggers need to realize is you're not going to find the perfect name at first. You're not going to find the perfect name after 7 of them. It just takes time, and then eventually you're going to hit a name and be like, that's the name. That's it.
Absolutely. Now, for everyone listening today, yes, I'm going to put the link to Joshua's blog in the show notes, so you're going to be able to check out all his amazing work. Now, Joshua, I thought we'd play a little bit of a game today because you've been to so many countries and stuff, and we'd probably have to talk for 5 or 6 hours to get through them all. So I've come up with a little bit of a game. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions about different experiences that you had when you traveled. And you've got to tell me which country or city or place you had those experiences in and what they were like, okay?
Okay.
Want to play along with that one?
Yeah, sure.
So the first one is, where was the best sunrise you ever watched?
No doubt about it. Mostar, Bosnia.
Mostar, Bosnia?
Yeah. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous city in Bosnia. Not Mostar, Bosnia. Hold on. I think I'm saying, is it Bosnia? Let me verify this real quick. I definitely do not want to be saying the wrong, because then I could only imagine people are like, that's not the way it is. And I'm like, well, because I actually, as I said that, I think, no, it is Bosnia. No, it is definitely Bosnia. So, and Mostar, Bosnia is famous for the Starry Bridge. Yeah. And the Starry Bridge is where they do big Red Bull jumps off the bridge. And it's like a big thing. It's very, very cool. And Mostar, Bosnia is the most beautiful small city and probably the most romantic city in all of Europe, in my opinion.
Wow. There you go. So all you romantic heads out there, you go start booking your tickets to Bosnia after we can start traveling again.
Absolutely.
Sounds like the place to be. Good answer. Okay, I'll take that one. Next one is, where was the best breakfast you ever ate?
That's a tough one. I guess I'd probably go with Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Oh yes.
The food there is phenomenal, as you probably know. Like, it's just amazing food.
You didn't have a steak for breakfast?
No, I had one at night a few times, and the problem is, I feel like, to be completely honest, steak is very similar to wine in a way, where if you're not a wine connoisseur or a steak connoisseur, it's hard to tell the real difference between good and great. So it's like, I thought the steaks were delicious, but I think a lot of food is delicious. So I don't really know if it was like this phenomenal. I had I met another young lady there, and she had a steak in Brazil, maybe São Paulo, somewhere over in Brazil, and she was talking about how she thought it was better. And I listened to this conversation between her and her friend, and I was kind of laughing because I'm just like, what? Like, I have no idea how can you even tell? And they're talking about the fat on the side and how the redness and all this. I'm like, as long as it's medium rare, I'm cool. It's a good steak for me.
You raise a good point, though, because I think there's, food connoisseurs out there that take their food seriously in different areas, right? And I think you can have certain dishes in whatever country around the world, and it can be at the time, depending on everything that's going on around you in your life, and it can be the best meal you've ever had, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, next question I have for you is, where was the worst taxi or Uber ride that you experienced?
Oh, the worst one.
Did you have a real shocker trip somewhere from an airport or a train station or somewhere?
Okay. Well, so I had the worst and the best in the same place.
Oh, okay. Sure, it's that one.
All right. So, Dubai.
Uh-huh.
So I show up in Dubai, and as a lot of travelers know, the go-to move for traveling in any country is Uber. Because Uber is safe, especially for Americans, UK, Australians. Like, a lot of us, we kind of like, we always use Uber because if the country has it, because we can just get on our phones, order an Uber, and you don't have to worry about the awkward confrontations between taxi drivers. And a lot of people get very, very nervous about the confrontation between taxi drivers when you arrive at the airport. So when I got to Dubai, I decided to do an Uber, and I was only staying at a hotel maybe less than 2 miles. So let's see what the metric system is. You can tell me if I'm right. 2 miles is maybe 3.5 kilometers or something.
Not far off, about 3.5, 4 k's. Yep.
Okay, so close to that, and so it's not very far at all. Generally, if I'm under 2 kilometers or about a mile, I'll walk. So I decided to do the Uber. So I call him up. He come and gets me, and I didn't pay attention to anything else. I was just kind of paying attention to waiting for him because I didn't want to miss my thing. He picked me up, took me to the hotel, and then I look at my bill, and my bill is 29 USD.
Right.
$29. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my, what just happened? Like, literally, I can't even explain to you. I may have been in the Uber for no more than like 6 minutes.
Wow.
And a lot of travelers listen to this, especially budget travelers, know that $29 to a budget traveler is basically 3 nights at a hostel and 3 days worth of food. So it was just like, wow. But now on the flip side, on the way back when I was leaving the hotel, a day or 2 days later, I couldn't get an Uber because the internet connection wasn't working. So the guy at the desk said, hey, just jump in this taxi. I jump in the taxi. The guy's really, really nice. He takes me to the airport. And then as I'm getting out of the thing, I'm like, oh, how much? I have a 20 on me. He's like, USD, $2. And I was like, what? $2? And he's like, yeah, just $2, man. And I'm like, what just happened? So the moral of this story is, if in Dubai, and Dubai is the only country that I've seen this happen in all the countries I've been to, taxis are not only cheaper, they're astronomically cheaper than Uber. And I still, to this day, I try to do research on it. I don't know why. I don't know why they're cheaper. But in Dubai, it was a very weird taxi thing because, it ended up being way, way cheaper.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll do a bit of research because we've got a few listeners to the show that live in Dubai. I know that for a fact. So if you are listening today and you want to crack the code for us, we want to find out why the regular taxis are cheaper than the Ubers in Dubai, please. There we are. We'll see if we can get that, Joshua, and I'll let you know, mate, when I find out, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
But that's a great story, and I think there's a lot of karma involved in that, right?
Yeah, there is. And I think it's also more about you can't judge one country or one city on the ones before. It doesn't matter if it's, if it's just a city on the other side of the river or if it's a city in a different country. When you go into places, and this is one of the things I learned, I now, like, when I get to the airport, if I see like a nice, taxi guy just kind of relaxing, I'll walk over to him and I'll ask him. And
Yeah.
I've actually in a few different other places, I've seen that the taxis were really, really reasonable, and I just jumped in the taxi rather than doing an Uber. So
Yeah, fantastic.
yeah,
It's a good piece of advice. I think, one bad experience in a place shouldn't label the whole place as being a disaster.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, good answer to the question. Now, the next one. In which country did you take the most stunning photograph you've ever taken so far?
Oh man, that's such a hard one.
Is there a standout photo in your memory bank?
I mean the one and the ones I took in Thailand working with some of the elephants up there were phenomenal. But if I'm gonna go with stunningness as far as scenery, I would say Lake Bled,
Oh, yes.
Slovenia. Like there's so
Slovenia.
many there's so many angles. There you could get up on the toboggan hills. You can get up on the castle hills. Then they have other like 2 other big trails you can go. You can get so many amazing angles at different things in Lake Bled. And I actually, and the funny thing is, I've written a few blogs on Lake Bled about like single life, like in Lake Bled, because I was a single guy in Lake Bled. And Lake Bled is not a party city. I can tell everyone listening that you don't go to Lake Bled for the party. However, I found some of the most amazing scenery and picturesque places in all of Europe in Lake Bled.
Well, I would add to that and just say Slovenia is such an underrated country for travelers. I think it's just a stunning place, and doesn't matter what time of the year you're there actually as well, because it's just as beautiful in winter as it is in summer. So
Absolutely.
there's a plug for Slovenia. So there we are. Lake Bled, yes. What a wonderful, wonderful place. Now, did you go for a swim in the lake?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I attempted. Well, I'll say I gave it a half of attempt. I saw a couple trying to swim to the island from the backside, because that's the only place you can do it from is the backside of the lake. You could try to swim across, and they made it over there and made it back. And then I was like, yeah, I got this. 20, 30 feet out. I was about 15 meters, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to turn around. And
Turn around and go back.
Well, at that exact time, too, a guy, one of the tour guys was kind of like, just kind of coming past me, and he's like, hey, I'm having to come over here anyways. Do you want to jump in? No charge. And I was like, all right. So I jumped in, and I tipped him anyways, because it was just him being nice. So they deserve a tip, because a lot of those tour people out there don't make a lot of money and all, and they deserve it. They do a great job.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, I'll tell you what, a little bit of serendipity going on with your photographs here, because I've actually used the photograph of the elephant in Thailand with you for the show notes today. So if people want to check out the great photo of the elephant in Joshua, you can see it in the show notes today. So there we are. We've got that one covered. Now, next question. In what place were you sad to say goodbye?
That's a really hard one as well.
I didn't want to make any easy questions for you.
Well, I see that, and it's kind of hard because it depends why I was sad of leaving. I feel like so many countries I've been sad of leaving for different reasons. An example would be Angkor Wat, Cambodia.
Yeah,
it's a amazing place, and I mean, I can't even start telling people how amazing it is. Every day I stayed there for a week, and every day I had a $3 massage every single day for 90 minutes. It was phenomenal. And then Cambodia, or Angkor Wat, has the number one. It's the number one city for me for the most smiles counted, and in like a 2-block radius. I was walking home, and everyone started smiling at me, and I was, at first I was like, I must have done my hair today. But slowly I just started noticing everyone was smiling, and then I just started counting, and literally I counted 28 smiles, like genuine smiles on the way from the restaurant to my hostel. And I'm just sitting there going like, this is amazing. Like, these people are so genuinely happy. I don't know if they're happy to see me or if they're just happy because it's a happy day, but either way, when do you walk down the street and see that many people smiling? Most of the time people are on their phones, talking or texting. They're not smiling. All these local people were just smiling. It was amazing.
So you were staying in Siem Reap, of course, before you went out to Angkor Wat. Did you go out for the sunrise? Did you have a look at Angkor Wat during the sunrise?
Well, funny story.
Yeah.
We were supposed to, and let's just say that the car that was chosen to go did not make it all the way there. So we did see a very nice sunrise, but it was not over any of the temples. It was more like over these trees that we were on the side of the road in the car, because the car didn't make it all the way there.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. So what I like about asking you all these questions, that it really typifies to all of us when we travel how we see things in a different way and how they impact us personally, isn't it? Because if I asked everybody these questions, they'd give different answers that were impacting them for their emotional experience in that place. So that's why I like going through this list, because it very much makes it personal to you and your experience at that particular place. Ready for the next one?
Yeah, good.
Where was the best value for money meal that you ever had when traveling the world?
I think we're going to go right to Bangkok. We got to go to Thailand.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just it's not only it's not only that they're super cheap, but like you said, it's the value and the quantity that you get there, and you're just like, you go in there and you get, real ramen noodles, not the ramen noodles from the little bag, but you get like some real authentic Thailand, like just some noodles and stuff like that. And you get so much that you get full. It's just, and you pay maybe a euro, maybe a dollar or a USD dollar. It's crazy.
You're talking about the street food here?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because that's the other thing in Thailand in particular, is that you can have your 5-star restaurant, but you can go out to the street side and you can get just as good a quality food, can't you? And go and sit under a tree and eat it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, next question. What country gave you the best surprise, and what was it?
Oh, okay. I'm probably going to get in trouble for this one from something, but I'm going to go for it. Warsaw, Poland.
Okay. Yeah.
And the reason is the amount of single ladies. I'm not even gonna lie, and I've told a lot of people this as well. A lot of my single friends, like, there is just an abundance of single, beautiful women in Warsaw, Poland, and I don't know why. And like I said, I've been in, probably maybe even, 200 different cities throughout Europe. And every time I think about it, it's Warsaw, Poland comes back to, man, that place was awesome. It had good food, good nightlife, and man, were there so many beautiful single women.
I actually know the answer. Why? Do you want to know?
Yeah, let me say if why I heard from somebody, and then you can tell me if I'm correct.
Okay.
I heard that it was something to do with all the men being deployed to war back in the 80s. Am I anywhere close?
No, you're not.
Okay, what was it?
It's got to do with something that comes out of the ground, actually.
Really?
Potatoes.
Are you messing with me, or are the potatoes really making these women?
Poland is famous for its potatoes. So next time you talk to a Polish person about anything, you ask them about the potatoes, and you'll get the true story behind it then.
Interesting.
There you go. There's something a global traveller didn't know about Poland.
That is true.
Now, we've got to say, though, Warsaw is another city that's hugely underrated by travellers, and a lot of people don't have it on their bucket list, and they should do, because it's a great place besides the beautiful women. It's a great place to go and learn about the world a bit as well.
You're saying it perfectly. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. I feel like for some reason, everyone always goes, a lot of people skip Poland when they're traveling. And Poland is a rather big country, actually, when you're looking at the map. And I don't know why people just skip over it. I don't know if it's because it's, it's not really famous for anything too crazy besides some of the, obvious devastations and the early years. But, like, yeah, it's an amazing place. They have great statues, great nightlife. They have, they have enormous, massive amounts of hostels everywhere. Yeah, it's relatively cheap as well. I was staying in some really nice Airbnbs for less than $20 a night.
Yeah, it is a good place, and I think if you're out there in the travel blogging world, there's quite a lot of travel bloggers now that are using it as a bit of a base camp to spend time in Europe. So get along there, you find like-minded people, and Yeah, Poland's a good place. Get up there and support them when you
Absolutely.
can. Okay, next question. What country couldn't you wait to get out of? Here's putting you on the spot. You got to name a country you didn't like.
This is a tough one. Well, I mean, I can say the worst. I could say the one I wanted to get out of, and then I went back to it a second time, and I actually really enjoyed it, and I can explain why.
You can tell us that one because it sounds like a diplomatic story.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's probably not going to come by a lot of. It's probably going to come pretty easy. It was Paris, France.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
So the first time I went, I knew no French. I went in with it was in the very beginning of my travels, within like the first 3 to 4 months of traveling. So I was a very unseasoned traveler, an infant in the travel world, if you could say. But it just wasn't that good. As I was there, I was asking for help. No one wanted to help me. I guess I was coming across very American-like, very UK-like, and it was just really miserable. I let it get to me, and then I started not liking the place, and then before you know it, I think I was making it worse on myself because I was making bigger deals about things that now I kind of laugh at when I'm in a country. And it was a really bad experience the first time I was in Paris. But go ahead.
That's really interesting you say that, because a lot of people have that experience when they go to Paris and / France, because it's the same in a lot of other French cities as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad the way that you recognize that, okay, well, it's actually me and my attitude that I'm bringing here that's making it this way, as it is most of the time when we travel, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. And the thing was, it's kind of like it's your attitude, but we can say that the French people that I had encountered, they weren't going out of their way to make it a better experience, So it's kind of like my attitude based on that. Before you know it, your whole trip is, somewhat ruined, and then you have a really bad, outlook on France, and you shouldn't, because as I'll explain, France is an amazing country, actually. Nice was phenomenal. And Paris was phenomenal the second time I went back because of one thing. Mm-hmm. I sat my butt down at my desk for 2 hours, and I studied French for 2 hours straight, and I learned about 25 words. That's it, 25 words. And when I got to Paris, I threw out some words, and I had French people going out of their way, speaking English. They spoke like one word of French to me. And as soon as they saw that I tried, they were like, yeah, I can help you. Come on out of here. We'll go over to Taco Bell. Then we'll hit some Burger King. How about you come out and party with us tonight as well? All because I spent 2 hours learning some French, and I wasn't, I wasn't nervous about looking like a fool trying to speak French, because I assure you, I'm not that good at it at all. But I guess from what I've talked to a lot of them about since then is that the effort was all they wanted to see. They just wanted to see some effort.
You unlock the key, because that's exactly what it is. And you'll be pleased to hear, and you probably know this anyway, because you would have been to the rest of the countries in Europe. It's the same everywhere. I went and lived in Belgium for 12 years. And I remember my first couple of months in Belgium and struggling to get around with speaking just English. And of course, Belgium's a bit of a unique country because it has 4 official languages. They speak German as well as Dutch and French and English. And it wasn't until I did exactly what you did, was to make an attempt at actually speaking it, and then people would open their mouths in English and help me out. But you're right. So the expectation, and I think this is an important thing for all of us travelers, is that when we go somewhere, let's lower the expectations a bit, because the French have a right to be French. It's their country, it's their home, it's their culture. And if you go over there thinking that everybody's going to be like what you're used to, then you're going to be hugely disappointed. And that's why we actually travel, is because we want something different. We want to experience different cultures. And sometimes we just got to put our own thing in our pipe and smoke it, don't we?
Absolutely.
Now, my next question I thought of, because I thought I better have a question that can help some ladies out, because this is more of a question that's something that ladies would be focused on when they travel. Where was the best toilet you've been to in your travels around the world?
Oh, we're going right. Obviously, we're going back to Japan without a doubt. I mean, it's not even a contest. Like the bathrooms in Japan are basically what you would expect in like Tom Cruise or one The Rock's house. Like, I mean, you go into a hostel and it has like 3 bidets connected to it, and you're like, what? Like this toilet is more expensive than my rent back home. Like, this is crazy.
So Japan wins hands down for bathroom hygiene.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good one. Okay, next one. What country did you have the best overland transport experience?
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Did you go on trains or buses or anything anywhere?
I did. I'm trying to think. I would have said probably. Let me see. I'm trying to think.
You're getting a map of the world out, eh?
Yeah, well, there's got to be a really, really good one. I feel like that I would go with here. So Europe has amazing bus transportation for the most part, like all places in Europe. But you know where I'm gonna go? Okay, what? I'm gonna go Flores, Guatemala to Guatemala City.
Okay, train was it?
No, it was a bus.
A bus.
But when they picked you up, like you expect, because a lot of Central America, you're going through. You're going on some chicken buses, and you're going, so you're not expecting much. And then this bus showed up that we couldn't have paid more than maybe $20 USD for. And you get on, and it has TVs in the back of the headrest, and the seats go all the way back, and you got double air conditionings. Yeah, it was one of those just very, very interesting experiences, because I didn't expect it at all.
Okay, so when you're in Guatemala, catch the bus. That's the bottom line of that one.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Where in the world did you eat the most memorable dinner?
Whew.
Here's another food one for you.
Yeah, so I would probably go. I would go with two. I would have 2 different ones here. I would have to say that Buenos Aires is up there with the steak for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But then I would actually probably go with Lima, Peru, and the ceviche. Like, whew,
Okay, yeah.
it was just amazing.
Interesting. Peru's coming up quite a bit on the show recently. I had a gentleman on the show who runs a travel company into Peru, and he was saying that he's an Australian guy, and he actually said that Peru's got the best food in the world as far as he's concerned.
Yeah, I could kind of. Well, and the funny thing is, you say that about Peru, and a lot of people ask me, because I've been to every country in South America but Venezuela, and I got stopped at the border because I couldn't get in because of obvious reasons. Last year there was a lot of civil contests going on, but I put Peru as my top country in South America when it comes to traveling. I think it's their bus system there. They have this thing called the Peru. What's it called? The Peru hop. Hop and Bolivia hop, and the way that system works to be able to travel from Ecuador to Peru to Bolivia, and it's all based out of Peru, is phenomenal. So it makes Peru such a travel-friendly country, especially for a lot of for Americans as well. When I have a lot of younger Americans that ask me about traveling and stuff like that, and I always tell them Peru because it's it is South America, but they understand that if you're a novice traveler, and they make it so easy. They drop you off at your hostel. They pick you up from the hostel. It's a very, very simple country to travel through.
There you go, folks. Put Peru up the top of your list of South American countries that you need to get to when we're out of lockdown, and get over there and enjoy it. It's a beautiful part of the world. Okay, next question. Where did you feel, and this can be not just a country, you can name a city or whatever with this one. Where did you feel the most out of your comfort zone?
Ooh, that's a really good one. Okay. Yeah, actually, it comes very easy now that I think of it. St. Petersburg, Russia.
Oh, okay. Why is that? It's a beautiful city.
It is a beautiful city. However, I had one of the toughest passport checks that I have ever been through. It took over. The funny thing is, so as it started taking a while, I actually put on my my watch and I started timing. It took me 38 minutes to get through security there, and it wasn't like they took me to the back. I stood at the desk for 38 minutes, and they never. So I was looking like that ridiculous guy who everyone's mad at because the line is stuck, and it was because my passport. I was on my second passport at the time, but I was about to finish it. So they had to go through all my stamps because I had been to some of the Middle Eastern countries, and if you go to certain countries, you can't get in to Russia. To this day, I don't know because I tried to ask them, they wouldn't answer me. But I don't remember, or I never got a clear answer what country they were looking for. Some people were saying maybe Israel. I don't know if there's something going on there at the time, but they went through my passport book a lot. They called over a couple other people, went through it. And then eventually I got into it, and I don't know. I felt a bit weird after that, and it could have been, all in my mind perhaps. But it definitely didn't feel very welcome there as much as I should have. And in reality, I should have used my UK passport, not my American passport. That was my fault. I wasn't thinking because I was taking it was really cool. I took a cruise ship from Finland, Helsinki, Finland, over to St. Petersburg, Russia.
Oh, brilliant, yeah.
So it was really cool.
Is there any acknowledgement in your US passport about your military background?
There is not, actually.
Okay, so that wouldn't have been a reason then.
I'd like to think no. But, I mean, the amount of time they spent on the computer looking up things, I don't know that, I wouldn't know if something pulls up on me. I don't think so, but you never really know.
Yeah. Well, we'll get Edward Snowden onto that and find out whether they were listening in. Okay, now, this question could be a bit redundant after where you told us you were born, but the question is, if you were to choose another country to be born in, where would it be?
That's kind of a hard one because, Bermuda is such an amazing, amazing place. I guess I would I might go with Japan, actually.
Oh, interesting. Cool. Why is that?
Yeah. Out of the 119 countries, Japan is still my number one. It was my first country, or technically Thailand was the first, and then Japan was second. But Japan was the first country I spent a lot of time in, and I love Japan, every part of it. The people are phenomenal. The culture is amazing. The food is outstanding. They're understanding. They're caring. I just really, really like the country as a whole.
It is a great place, and they live a long time too in Japan.
That is true. I believe the oldest woman alive right now is from Japan.
Is Japan. There you go. Okay, couple more before we finish up today. What country physically challenged you the most?
Let's see.
You're not allowed to say Afghanistan for obvious reasons.
Actually, we'll go with Morocco.
Okay. Why did it physically challenge you there?
There was a lot of walking. And, I was used to a lot of walking, but from what I remember when I was in Marrakesh to Casablanca, and we did this camel hike and stuff like that, I want to say we put together like over 30 kilometers in a 24-hour period. Like, it was a lot. And outside of that, if I was going to go from there, I would also put Antigua, Guatemala for when we climbed El Fuego volcano, and we put together in one day, it was 19 kilometers uphill. So both of those countries are, when I think about like being tired, both those countries come up. Okay.
Have you been up the Atlas Mountains on a donkey?
I have not.
You better go back and do that.
Yeah, was it worth it?
That's a standout bucket list lifetime experience, that one, yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely phenomenal. Yep. Don't go to Morocco without going up the Atlas Mountains on a donkey.
I will not. I actually love it. And I'm planning on going back over there for sure.
Oh, there you go. You have to do that. It's an amazing, amazing thing. And let's talk about it after you've done it, because I want to see how it impacts you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, next question. What country emotionally challenged you the most? Sounds like Russia, was it?
I would like to say Russia, but I feel like that one wasn't complete. I would say if I was going to go off a country that really, really emotionally challenged me, I would actually say Colombia.
Hmm.
And the reason was I got pickpocketed
Okay.
and I lost like all my stuff. So that one was probably the most, like, it messed with my head afterwards. So I was kind of like, I wasn't fully back, to normal for a good few months, because people don't realize when you lose your wallet and you lose everything, how much it messes with you emotionally.
Yeah, I bet. And also, as a military man, I must add that, your mindfulness never kicked in that day, did it? What happened? How did it happen?
Well, and that was a funny thing. So it did. I had these jeans on. They were rather tight jeans as well. And somehow one of them went for my phone. And this was at maybe about 1 a.m. or so. And we were out on the town. So one of them grabbed my phone out of one pocket, and the other one another young boy grabbed my wallet. When it happened, I could only see one. I went after one, and I got my cell phone back.
Right.
But the other one was gone already. And then as soon as I turned around, the other one had run off.
They double teamed you.
It was a very interesting. Yeah, it was very good. The funny thing is, as much as like nowadays, now I don't really. Obviously, I don't hold grudges. When you travel a lot, you learn to get over it. They're fighting to live, their best life. I get it, but it's like at the moment now when I look back, and I'm like, those were some really smart 10-year-olds. Like they were very clever the way they did it. And that same night, another young lady lost her passport. It's very it's tough in some of those places, and I feel like that's something that we're going to see a lot more in the coming year or two. Because so many people think it's bad in the United States, in the UK, and Australia with like businesses going, under. I couldn't even imagine some of these other countries and how many of their businesses are going under.
And, let's also say it as global travelers that, these things can happen to you in a lot of places around the world. They're not isolated to South American countries or whatever. We've all had experiences in different places, and we shouldn't label a country as bad because of that as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and the funny thing is I actually love Medellin, Colombia. I mean, it's amazing. It's actually an amazing country, and I've been there, I think 4 times already. Even after that happened, it just happened that, when you decide to go out on the town at 1 a.m., you need to be observant. If you drink a little bit, you need to be. What it taught me too as well is anybody is a target. Like I'm a guy who works out all the time. I'm covered in I have lots of tattoos, stuff like that. So people would think that I'm not a target in a lot of countries. This right here put me back in my place, that's for sure. Because once it happened, because nothing had ever happened to me in the first like year and a half as I was traveling. So I'm like, no one's gonna take it at me. And then when it happened, I was like, whoo, well, that's interesting because anybody can be a target. It doesn't matter what you look like, how big you are, how much muscles you have, or how amazing your hair is. It doesn't matter. They'll come after you no matter what.
And you didn't have your night vision goggles on either.
No, if I would have had those, I think I might have saw the little guys coming.
Okay, a couple of things before we finish up today. I'd really like you to share with my listeners, because you've had so many amazing travel experiences. How has all that travel changed you as a person over the years and months that you've been doing this?
So the biggest thing that I've noticed, after being in the Army for 10 years and then transferring from Army life, discipline, all this to the life that I have now where I travel for a living, it makes you, whatever you think your life is and however bad you think it is, I bet you someone there has it worse. I promise you, most likely someone has it worse. It's made me much more humble and much more understanding of, even at my worst, it's still probably better than a lot of other places. I've been in places where, Johannesburg, South Africa was a big wake-up call when you're going down and you see some of the children in Soweto and they're the nicest children ever and so happy. But then you talk to the people that are, looking after them and they don't have anything to eat the next day. They don't have it yet. So as you travel, me traveling I honestly think it's made me a better person, a more observant person, a more understanding person. after 10 years in the Army, I didn't know if I actually had compassion and emotions, after you go to war and stuff like that, your body is trained to like not have emotions or show emotions the same way. And then once I started traveling the world, all those emotions come back, flooding back as you're traveling. And you just realize how lucky so many of us are. Anyone who's able to travel away from their country is a very, very lucky person in my book.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful way to come to the end of the show today, Joshua. It's been fantastic having you on my show. Thank you for your time. I want to make sure that people check out tiredofworking.com. As I said, I'm going to put the links in the show notes today so you can check out Joshua's word. Joshua, I'd love to have you back on the show once we can all start traveling again to continue hearing your stories of places that you've been to and things you've seen and experienced. And thanks for playing the game today. You were very good at it.
Hey, I appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me on the show.
See you again soon. Take care.
Definitely.
There we are, folks. That was Joshua talking to me from beautiful Clearwater in Florida, the United States, a man who has traveled to Afghanistan, Tajikistan for war, and who also shared many of his other secrets about traveling to various countries around the world. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. If you're looking for more episodes from the Global Travel Channel, don't hesitate to check out our website at globaltravelchannel.com. You'll find over 150 episodes there for you to listen to, and you can download them from places like Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and the list goes on. You can find them all there on our website. And if you're looking for more podcasts from different genres, you can listen to my business podcast called theglobalbusinesspodcast.com. There I interview leaders of business and business owners across the world. We talk about navigating our way out of COVID-19 and what companies are doing to be innovative and creative in these challenging economic times. I also have another podcast show called Humanity Inspires. That's HUMANEITY.com. And this is a show where I just talk freestyle conversation to people, and we get into all sorts of interesting conversations about anything that's going on in people's lives. So if you want to be a guest on any of my shows, please reach out via social media and we'll put you into the pot, and we'll let you know whether you can be a guest on the show. There we are. If you enjoy our content, please share it with somebody in your life, whether it be a friend, a family member, or even a work colleague. Tell them about our podcast, as we want to get more and more people around the world listening to our podcast channel. So I'm very grateful for that. Okay, well, I'm already excited about coming back again and doing another podcast show for you all. In the meantime, my name's Mark Philpott. I wish you all a very happy, safe week ahead.